Hi, welcome to another video for my members. Today what we're going to do, I've got a block of maple 5 inches square. Make sure that this is absolutely square. Now then, I've marked out the grain, the direction of the grain. This is the end grain running that way. What we're going to do is we're going to mount this corner to corner in the lathe. So that corner there is going to go straight into the spindle. No drive, nothing at all, straight into that spindle there. And on this side we're going to put a revolving centre. However, what we've got to do first is take that point out. It is a little Morse taper, so if we just put this down a minute, I'm going to keep it in the position that I want to put it in there. Just get a little knockout bar, shove that up into there, and a little tap. I was going to say normally they are in quite tight and you've got to bang them out. I loosened that so it would just tap out. It was a bit too loose. So anyway, it's on the floor. I'm going to pick it up. I'll do that in just a moment. Let's keep this rolling. Wind out the tailstock spindle. Now only take it out so far and lock the Morse taper in place. Push that in, make sure it locks into place. Don't have the spindle too far out. If you do, you're going to get some of this, okay? So just enough to get that to lock into place. We've knocked the centre out. This is the ring centre. So we're going to put that corner into there, this corner into here. Tighten this up. Make sure everything is really nice and tight. And we're going to push this between centres. So there we go. That's really quite safe. It's on a ring centre. I suppose if you wanted to, if you cut that really square there, really square on the other side, you could use maybe a something like this, a step centre to drive it there, and a ring centre here. So yeah, you could do that. You could cut the corners off. However, this is pushed between centres. What you may find is that after you've turned for a while, the wood the fibres start to crush a little. So just make sure to, occasionally tighten up the tailstock and make sure that it keeps in there nice and tight. All we're looking to do is we're going to turn the outside and we're going to put a tenon on here. I'm going to use, the Vic Mark chuck, the VM120. I like the dovetails, and yes, it's on a slightly bigger foot. However, at the very end we can turn this around, re-chuck it between the centres and rework and shape the foot. So I'll show you how to do that. So let me sharpen a couple of tools up, reposition the camera, and we're going to start and turn. It's going to be a tri-cornered bowl. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. Well, if I continue to hollow it out, I could make it into a bowl. Okay, so I'll explain this later on. However, why don't we make a little lid and make a box out of this? I can show you the tools you need to get undercut and everything else. And it's actually a really pretty piece of wood, a nice piece of maple. There's cat paw burr in there, there's figure. It'll be dead bonny that when it's done. Okay, so gonna get set up and be back with you in a minute. Okay, we've got it all set up between centres. First thing, bowl gouge, long grind bowl gouge, bevel. Remember, bevel does two things on the push cut. Tells you in which direction you're cutting and controls the tool. So when I switch this on, you'll see there's going to be two high points. They look like two little horns. We're going to cut those off flat first. Now remember, to cut this parallel, what you don't want to do is turn them, well, not initially, is turn those wings in. It'll make it much more difficult to turn on the inside. Once you've got your first one done, then change the shape and do whatever you want. Then it may look quite interesting having those points come in. However, we're going to leave an open shape because we'll make it into a box. And so first thing we're going to do is cut those two high points out. I'm going to put the tool in the middle. I'm going to cut that way, and then I'm going to cut this way. Okay, and then I might just do a cut over the whole length. After that, I'm going to start to make cuts, exploratory cuts, to form the outside of the curve. I'll be working against the grain. I'm cutting that way. It's actually against the grain. Technically, you shouldn't do that. However, once I get close to the shape that I want, I'm going to take smaller cuts. I'm going to do a finishing cut with the grain. We're going to work out and put the tenon down here somewhere. So prior to doing that, measure the size of the tenon you want before you even put the chuck on the lathe. Okay, get your dividers, and we'll use calipers for this. Okay, so let's get going. I'm going to turn the speed, it's variable speed this lathe. I'm going to turn it on and turn the speed up to the speed that I want. I'm going to turn this pretty fast. A lot of you know I do turn fast. I'm confident it's held in there between centres. I'm just going to take small careful cuts, and I'm going to be standing out the way of the piece of wood. So let's go. Turn the speed up a little bit. There's a little bit of a vibration there. Let's go a little faster. There you go, that's leveled out. That's around about 2,000. You can see the two high spots. If you look against the smoke, one there, one there. We're going to put this one away first. As I'm making these cuts, I'm looking at the profile. The size of the piece of wood that I started with was 5 inches square. And make sure that it's square. Just taking small, careful cuts. Now, we're going to make a cut in that direction to take this high point out. I'm not quite there yet. However, I'm cutting that quite square. But you can see you're going to have a high point there, a high point there, and a high point there. However, when I was making that cut across there, be careful because there's no grain here and you can break it out going in that direction. So I'm going to make a cut this way. I'll do a shear cut finishing off, but I'm going to make a cut that way so that grain's supported and I get a clean cut into there. We've taken those corners away, so all I have to do now is start to make the cuts this way using a 1/2 inch ball gouge carefully, and you'll see me piece it together. Okay, the cuts exactly the same way as I normally use a ball gouge. I'm looking at the profile and we're starting to form that outside curve. Just going to move the tool rest a little closer. It was initially set approximately, I don't know, 3/8 of an inch away from the piece of wood, from the two high points. It's too far away now. I'm going to move it in again, back to about 1/4 of an inch away from the wood. That's why I prefer to have it. Remember, the tool wants to be cutting on the centre line. We don't want to be in that position. The tool wants to be in this position. More efficient cut. Make sure everything's nice and tight. You can see I'm going to step these cuts down. If you find when you're turning the wood slipping as you're making a cut, you're either taking too heavy a cut, back off a little bit, or tighten the tailstock up a little bit. It'll be one of those two things. Let's take this curve a little bit further. Now this one, just starting to spin a little bit. Take a smaller cut, and I'm cutting against the grain. Bit of a hollow there, transition. Put material at the bottom of the hollow, work away. Going to make some cuts in this direction to get rid of some of that waste wood. Back the other way. Just going to stop it for one moment, have a look, just assess where I'm going. Okay. We've got flat there, flat there and a flat there. So what that means is I've got to tuck this, I've got to reduce the diameter and tuck this curve further in. So again, just go in a little bit at a time. You can take what off, but you can't put it back on. I'm going to resharpen the tool, tighten this. I'll do this now, yeah, and get a little bit. It does, the fibres do give slightly. So just again, make sure everything's nice and tight. Tighten that up. Okay, sharpen my tool, and we'll come back in just a minute.